Bappa do, Bappa DTD. Welcome to a new episode of So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan. This is a special Sunday episode. We're covering Southern Charm and Summer House from this past week. Well, we talked about the overall themes, I believe, on Friday's episode with TikToker Josh the Roni Stan, and I loved him. And thank you for all the nice comments about him. If you haven't checked him out, I think he is great. So great. But today we're going to be covering these two messes of shows and try to see what we can derive from studying them like we do every week. Consider this school that you go to, but it's kind of fun. And the great thing I love watching both of these shows back to back is that you can really, if there was some sort of graph, if I knew how to do graphs, you could really graph the degradation of the relationship between Craig and Paige through both prisms of Summer House and Southern Charm. We're just off a little bit in terms of the timing, but in both episodes, you can kind of see where this is headed. So make no mistake, there is no mystery here. This shouldn't be a shock to anybody that they eventually split up. I mean, I in fact think that the cameramen, especially in the scene from it's Summer House? Yeah, Summer House, where Paige and Craig are at the Australian restaurant. And you could even tell the cameraman at that point was like, yeah, these kids aren't going to make it. Like they just want different things, and that's not bad. That's part of growing up, right? But I'm here. I mean, I'm here for the content. I just do not think it is Scandival worthy. So I feel like that conversation has kind of petered out, yet we keep like kind of stoking the fire's almost out, and then each week new episodes come out and we kind of stoke the flames a little bit. But I think by the time the actual breakup happens, or it's already happened, but when we catch up to it on the reunions or when they pick up cameras for both seasons, and this next week is the finale of Southern Charm, Bappa do Bappa DTD. A sad Bappa do for that. In some positive news, though, we've got a hard figure here. This is great. If you check the numbers, sales of Megalodon teeth have shot up 800%. The Megalodon tooth market that I feel Shep has really it's talking about stoking the flames. If you have a Megalodon tooth, this is good as gold, man. I'm investing all my money in Megalodon teeth. In fact, I bet Shep has at least 50 or 60 Megalodon teeth that he just stores at his house for every time he kind of feels heart flutters for another person. He's like, time to give him a Megalodon tooth. It's Megalodon tooth time. So this week we have Southern Charm season 10 episode 14. This one is called The Telephone Game, and we have Summer House season 9 episode 5. We're only 5 episodes into Summer House, and this is called Red Flags and Beach Bags, which is great when you can get a show title to rhyme, flag and bag. I'm like, somebody was patting themselves on the back. I'm like, hey, but it's cool because it rhymes. Like it also rhymes. Did you see what I did there? So basically, each one of these episodes, Southern Charm, we are getting out of the Bahamas trip where Shep threw his heart at Sienna. And Sienna was like, I don't want to see your heart at all. We were never in a relationship. And he's like, you're telling me there's a chance. Amazing. So all the group returns to Charleston in this episode. We have like Madison giving us a health update about Brett's health, which is a positive thing. Now remember, Madison, if we want to fast forward, she is pregnant with a girl baby. That's how you... It's a girl baby. It's a baby it's a girl baby. So that's one of the storylines in this one. We have Sally with a very brave decision to remove her breast implants. It has been Breast Awareness Month on Bravo. No, I mean, I don't think they planned this at all, but I'm thinking back to Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. We had Kathy and Kyle, the Richard sisters, getting a breast exam together. I mean, if we could just get Kim in there, that would have been maybe the scene of the decade. But we had them getting their mammogram. Sally's removing her breast implants, and because she's approaching her 30th birthday. Me personally, I have never gotten a breast implant. I am going all natural, and I seem to be growing in that department. So that's amazing. Also, Molly is kind of embarrassed, and this is one of the wackier scenes in reality television when Molly talks about feeling embarrassed over her crush for Shep during the Bahamas trip. And she's like kind of thinking about it, but she's thinking about it with Taylor, Shep's ex. And that's what I love about reality television shows because I feel like this conversation would never happen in real life at all. In fact, you'd run away from conversations like this. It's like, hey, remember that guy you were in a relationship for 3 years? I feel weird about liking him. And they're not even talking about, hey, I wanted to talk to you because you've been in a relationship. She's just talking, just talking. And then we have this JT. JT, what is like, is JT saying all of this insane shit? Like, there's an explanation for everything. But we have another dust up at the end of this episode because JT went to a barber shop to, look good. And I guess he started yapping to his barber. I'm like, when I go to a barber, I'd never know how to I'm not a good small talker. And I don't know maybe next time I'll just I'll just verbatim just tell JT stories. But he allegedly said, oh, this black girl is all over me. And it gets back and Leva has to have a conversation with JT of like, did you say this? And JT was like, this has gone too far. I have not said any of this stuff. Come on. It is getting redonkulous. But Vanita is crushed because Vanita has like a real thing for JT, which is also confusing because JT has a girlfriend. Now, the timeline of these events are all over the place. And outside of the show, there's like a Southern Charm after show that they have on Peacock. And they talk about Vanita like said she paid $5,000 for JT's clothing at the beginning of the season and says this in the Southern Charm after show. But JT was like, no, I got a Venmo, some PayPal receipt where I paid her back. Here, look. And I think Vanita backtracked a little bit, but I'm confused because I trust Vanita implicitly, but I need the reunion, and I hope the reunion covers some of this stuff because they filmed this reunion over a month ago, I think, at this point. And I just feel like, are we going to be caught up to, I feel we need to get graphs out and maps, and we need to go line by line. I need to know, like, JT is throwing it all against the wall. He's really, like, he is that guy that you can shit on and kick on, and he makes it real easy because he's very loudmouthed. And I don't mean that as a bad thing, but he is actively creating a reality show. You just don't know if he is to be believed. But then through the course of this season, we've seen Craig. Craig really, it has been hit over the head that Craig likes to bend and stretch the truth. You see it on Summer House. You see it on Southern Charm. There are so many instances. And to Craig's, this is not a compliment, but Craig even goes on Watch What Happens Live. He's like, no, I've never lied. What are you talking about? I just don't lie. I don't do that. So he's saying he doesn't lie, which is potentially a lie in itself because we have all of this video evidence. If we didn't have the video evidence, I'd be like, who knows? But we have the video evidence. And I'm so confused for somebody like Craig that has no reason to lie at all. And the other thought is Craig just hear voices? Like, did he hear JT call Miss Patricia a biatch? Did he hear that and just was like, that's what I heard, but it's like voices in his head? Does he have split personalities? Like, I'm looking for every excuse to give Craig the benefit of the doubt. Because, listen, the grossest part of this episode is there's a scene with Paige where he's talking. It's very sweet in a sense, saying that Paige really saved him from himself. But he's doing it while he's sitting up on his counter and his foot is literally in his sink. Like, listen, guys, obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I'm not the cleanest person in the world. I even know not to put my foot directly in a sink. Like, that's something I've learned fairly early in life. Like, there's never been a point of like, you know what, these feet, you know where they should go, the sink. Like, no, and she's like watching him, and he's giving her all these nice compliments, but his feet are in the sink, so all you're watching is foot germs in the sink, where his dishes are. Like, come on. And he's probably going to lie about that. He's like, oh, it's CGI. It's not, no, I would never do that. I know that. No, but it's wild. So that's really kind of the sum up of Southern Charm. We're going to get into it a little bit more. But then Summer House, the whole kind of Summer House this episode, which I always say about Summer House, it's a vibe, you guys. It really, sometimes the storylines are a little, not weak, but it's a vibe. You're looking about like going in and out of doors and laying in beds and, diving into a pool. And so you either like that vibe or you don't. But if you're looking for like hardcore storylines, it's not like Southern Charm's having the season of all seasons, but there's more like kind of, okay, that's a storyline. This is a little more, atmosphere, you know? So we have Kyle and Paige. They were in a fight last episode. So we start this episode with them making up. And then Lindsay's relationship status gets brought up with her and her baby daddy Turner. They don't live together. Danielle, by the way, in another episode, this guys, this is what you should do. If you want to truly be a success in what you do, quit or don't get asked back to your job and then just keep showing up. And I feel like I'm seeing Danielle more on the season that she is not a part of than I've ever seen Danielle before. Like, what was the point of making an announcement that Danielle is no longer in Summer House when she's been in 3 or 4 of these episodes so far? We're only up to episode 5. Like, I've seen Danielle more than I've seen Gabby, who's actually in the cast photos at this point. And then, of course, I guess the main storyline, well, first off, Imrul, horny devil, this guy. In one weekend, he brought 2 women home. Not at once. I mean, even though I think he'd be up for that, but one each night. And he's a horn devil, and you can tell Jesse and Wes are like, oh my God, we're not worthy. We're not worthy. They look up to this guy now so much immediately. But isn't it just funny, the thought of he's a new cast member and he's already brought 2? Like, at what point, like, I'm like, let your freak flag fly. He's obviously communicates with these women, is very open about what he's out for, all of this stuff. But isn't it weird to be like getting to know people for the first time and he's not really around as much because he's straight up fucking? Like, he's just like, where's that new, like, even if you're like, oh, he seems like a nice guy, you know, really nice guy, but you're like, is he just in the bedroom fucking all the time? Like, he's just like that. Not to say he's like Kramer, not that Kramer was out there fucking in Seinfeld, but you know, it's like, isn't it weird to, like, if you think about the reality of this, say you're in a share house or at a music festival or something. We had this one time with, we used to go to Coachella all the time, and we had like 2 new people with our Coachella group, and they had just started dating, and they literally spent the whole weekend. They even skipped one of the days at Coachella because I think they were like really excited about exploring each other's bodies. You know what I don't mean to be gross, but like, but we were like, oh, that's a little weird. Like, you know, they're not really hanging with the group. And this guy, I like it. I want to focus on it more. But we have Lexi and Jesse. So Lexi kind of wants commitment from Jesse. And I like, people are like, oh, she's pressuring him. Like, I don't know. I don't really, that's not, I mean, pressure. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, I don't want you sleeping with other people. If we've started to get physical and head in this direction, I don't like to paint her out as some like hard ass woman when I feel like that's something natural you would want. And Jesse is a little hesitant because Jesse likes to spread his horniness around. And we have that continually coming up in this episode. So, and also Wes Wilson, truly in terms of fashion, giving us so much fashion. He looks like he is like, you remember Boys to Men back in the day, like their first album? He's dressing exactly like early Boys to Men with like the sleeveless, like V-neck sweater. And he's doing things with a silk scarf that I mean, women must be just jealous so much because Wes Wilson is doing for silk scarves what a lot of people haven't done in a long time. He's getting so much use out of them. He sometimes will wear one over his head. He'll sometimes tie it around the neck in like a jaunty little bow. This guy, do not give him a silk scarf because he is going to create fashion. And that's another kind of storyline is West doesn't really want to be very vocal about who he's banging because he's trying to be respectful of Sierra. And he's, I guess, just waiting for New York Times to do an article about it before he tells her. But I don't know, you know, like I get what he's trying to do, but I think that ends up biting you in the ass too. But I love that it's like, I don't want to be open, but I don't want to change my behavior. I still want to sleep with people as often as possible, that's, you know, your own prerogative, but I don't want to talk about it. But the thing with reality television is you have to talk about it. That's why I get upset about Kyle sometimes in Beverly Hills or, you know, and this is West's second season, right? But sometimes like you're paid to have those uncomfortable conversations that you wouldn't necessarily have in real life. And that is primarily my issue with West. And we had that in the second episode when Sierra was like, let's talk about it at the family dinner. And he was like, okay. Oh, let's talk, okay. And then he wouldn't talk. He just let Sierra talk. And it's like, dude, you have to participate. I think I know that you think you're trying to protect her feelings and be a good guy and just showcase your big, meaty nipples. But I think there's a world in which you have to put your feelings aside of self preservation and have that conversation. Whatever that conversation is, you have to. We have this game of like stoking the fire, of like trying to get him to like speak and engage. Because it's fine when he's like flirting with Sierra on the come up last season. He's very talkative then. Or if you interview him, he's very talkative. But now he's like, oh, I'm a shy guy. I don't know if I want to tell her. Oh my God. We will jump into Southern Charm right after this break. Okay, so this is called the telephone game. Penultimate episode of the season. This week is the finale, and then we'll have the reunion, which is usually like 2 parts. I don't think they can stretch this into 3, but you never know. We start off with everybody unpacking from the Bahamas, and I will tell you, just from experience of learning myself, Austin puts his suitcase on the bed, and I have been told you do not put suitcases on the bed. It's dirty. It's dirty. So Austin, let's leave this. I know it's easier because it's at that mid-level, but you're not just, I guess it's dirty. It's like Craig putting his footsies in the sink. Not good. What's happened? We need to come to some sort of agreement as men. And I don't think the Tate brothers are going to get us there, but we should not put feet in the sink, and we shouldn't put our suitcases, even though it's at that level that it makes it easier, we shouldn't put it on the bed. Rod lets us know that he found a $500 gambling chip in his suitcase that he forgot to cash in. How do you forget that you have a $500 chip? What the hell? I'm shocked. Anyways, we're over at Craig's, and Craig is blouseless. We've got a full, almost nude Craig Conover coming down. Paige is in town, and Paige is like, you're going to make me breakfast. And he's like, cool. He's like, you watch me make breakfast. And this is going to be very sexy, I'm sure, for Paige. And Paige, opens the door to Craig's backyard, and there's been so much conversation about Craig's backyard, but she's like, oh, that's very nice. Well, this is, you're not going to have the backyard forever, obviously. We see Craig making eggs, being just an all-around Renaissance man. His burners aren't working, he lets us know, because his cleaners always screw up his burners, you guys. You got to get on those cleaners, Craig. Paige loves his eggs, says, wow, that looks so fucking good. And she's like, what else happened on the trip? And he's like, where to start? There is me and Austin's breakthrough. I was like, really? Let's try to figure out what the issue is. And he's like, and then we flash back to their conversation a couple days ago where Austin's talking about the disconnect that you've created, Craig, this wonderful image for yourself. Craig tells Paige, he basically, which this is insane, was like, you're getting sober to keep up an image, is what Austin has believed the last year. And so I was finally like, no, I'm getting sober because I'm an addict. And Paige there's like really leading music, goes boom, and Paige just shifts. But I think we're supposed to think that's a reaction. All the while, she's fucking reacting because his foot's in the sink, you guys. Craig goes, the day after this talk, Austin was very good about being like, hey, can I get you like a soda water or any, like something just like clicked for him. All the while, I loved this conversation so much, but remember he had this conversation with a full bottle of Veuve Clicquot. They were both hammered having this conversation about addiction, which is interesting. It's just an interesting prop to have while you're having this conversation. But Craig's like, I just can't believe we got to this point. And Paige is like, yeah, it's fucking weird. If one of my friends was like, hey, I'm trying not to drink for like a couple minutes, I'd be like, and Craig goes, I cried when I said addict though. And Paige makes a face like, like what? In fact, I'm going to take a photo with my phone here just to keep this as a memory. You can realize she's like, that's not hot on top of the foot in the sink. Oh my God. And Craig's like you feel like paper thin. You feel powerful. And Paige is like, you feel like something's wrong with you. And he's like, yeah, I just never really other than talking to you and my parents, had never said it to anyone. And Craig has a talking head, says he comes from a family of alcoholics and alcoholism and stuff. And so when someone stops drinking around me, I know what the reason is. Apparently Austin just didn't, but also I didn't really talk about it because I don't want people to know about it. I think it makes people uncomfortable. And he tells Paige it was a huge step making us whole again. And Paige is like, well, yeah, because he acted the way a friend should. And Craig's like, yeah, yeah. I wonder if I can fit 2 feet in this sink. Yeah. But it is wild. You see this with men, I think, more than women. It's all the things that we don't say to each other. We're like, I thought he just would have picked up on the context clues. All the while, Austin's like, this guy fucking loves his backyard. Why is he like bailing on me for this backyard? Now, over at Austin's, his sister comes over and visits. They're already day drinking, and by the way, it looks like it's like it's like bright sunlight, so they are already day drinking. He's relaying to his sister the same thing that Craig just related to Paige, and Austin's just saying, I never really thought it was that big of a deal because it was not like you wake up in the morning and pound a bottle of Jack. That's what alcoholism to him means, right? But Austin says, I'll be like, hey man, love you. Glad that we're open and like honest with each other. But now that, we had this other talk, like, why are you this way? To me, then the other things bothering him. But I don't plan on like pulling him aside and doing it. So Austin still is wondering, well, why am I treated this way? I totally understand this now, but then it doesn't potentially answer the other questions he has about Craig's behavior. But Austin needed this. He needed, sometimes we need those moments in our male friendships and obviously female friendships where you do like, listen to me, I can be really cold and really keep things close to the vest. But I think I do that because the other side of me is like just overly lovey. Like just like, oh my God, I love you so much. I want to bro out so hard. And it's hard to have that balance, right? But Austin's sister goes, do you think he feels the same? And Austin's like, well, I mean, that's what he said, until he puts a ring on it, you know what I'm saying? So we're back over to Craig's and Craig's still talking to Paige, so it's like he's been talking for hours to Paige. He goes, sometimes I think me getting better holds a mirror up to Austin and it makes him extremely uncomfortable. And that's why I don't hang with him all the time. Like, I don't know. And Paige goes, well, also, I feel like the generation we grew up in, like hearing the words like drug addict and like alcoholic meant like you drank every single day. All day you were like beating your wife up, Paige says. Like it was very, I feel like, taught to us in the extreme way. And now that we're adults, it can take so many forms. Like for you, like you weren't waking up and being like, I gotta have a shot or like my body's gonna freak out. But when you were drinking, your personality was way different than what your normal personality is. And we do a flashback of some of Craig's greatest hits from like Winter House, where it's always wild when Kyle gets offended by another man. Like, this dude's out of control. And Kyle, I mean, that's wild coming from Kyle, right? That's why it's great to talk about Summer House and Southern Charm at the same time. Craig goes, it was cyclical, Paige. I would be like good for a few months and I would go too far. And she's like, don't I know it? Don't I know it? And Talking says, I got to my bottom when I just see it on Paige's face, just like this look of like, I wasn't the guy that she had seen herself marrying. And so Paige was pretty much done, he lets us know. Paige says, I bit my tongue so many times because like it truly is a personal journey. And Craig's like, well, I got really lucky that you were still there when I made that decision to ask for help and you were there and ready, right? Talking said, it wasn't until almost losing Paige for me to change my behaviors. Paige was my rock. Yeah, you can never like change your drinking for someone. You do it for yourself, but like she's the first thing in my app. Like why? If you forget your why, like it just says Paige. And Paige says, I'm just proud of you for your self-awareness. And in the past year has been drastically different, she tells him. So this, by the way, this is like a good quarterly report from your loved one. Like you go in for work, Q1, you were like light on this. He's getting a glowing review from Paige. Unfortunately, we know where this ends in the long run, so it wasn't glowing enough. And I totally agree and understand everything that Craig's saying, but I do wonder what this app is that he's using because I geek out about apps. And secondly, what is the why now? Like, is it Paige, but to destroy her? Like, what is the why now? And I believe I want to believe he will not fall back into his bad habits. But remember, Craig says, I'm much different now, but then we just had that Bahama thing with him. Obviously he was toasted. So what is that balance for Craig, or what does he think? Or is it just in terms of like substances like Adderall? And you know what? I've got a podcast recommendation for Craig, and that's right. It's called In the Mind of a Man by Jax Taylor. I am. I talked about this on Friday's show, but over the weekend, I did an hour and a half Patreon a little bit ago today. Go sign up for the Patreon, you guys. Good stuff today. But I just can't get over "In the Mind of a Man" by Jax Taylor. Like, I feel like maybe you've gone too wide of a net on who you're going out to with this pod. Like, just say "In the Mind of Jax." Like, "In the Mind of a Man" makes it sound like you're speaking for all men. And like, I'm so sorry. In a billion trillion years, I mean, I would not choose for Jax to speak on the mind of a man. You know, we're all beautiful snowflakes, and I think that Jax is a very particular type of man. So, I mean, you were like "In the Mind of a Very Specific Man" by with Jax Taylor. Like, maybe that's too long of a title, but who knows? I'm so bad it's good with Ryan Bailey. But anyways, Craig says, when I hit my bottom, I don't plan on going back there. And he finally gets his foot out of the sink. He finally stands up. And then Paige goes, well, but just know, if I ever need to leave in the middle of the night with the kids, I will. And she kind of smiles, but it's kind of real. But also, it's like, I felt like it's almost giving him hope of like, so you're saying you want kids with me, huh? 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 All right. And then Craig goes, yeah, I know, because you make your own money. It is so obvious that Craig like keeps tally of financials. And I do think it almost pushes Craig. Like, I got to start more businesses. I got to keep up with that Giggly Squad money. God, I got to keep up with it. It's too hard. We come back from break and we are in a doctor's office because Craig is in quarantine after putting his feet in the sink. No, we're over at Madison's place, and Madison's mom's over there. And Brett, her husband, is out there playing with Madison's son. And it seems like they really do have this like really cute father or stepfather son relationship. But the mom, the mom, by the way, I feel like she needs to be on White Lotus. She like, tsunami, tsunami. Because she's like, oh, he is ready to have a child. That guy, Brett, he is ready. Ooh. So they're basically talking about they're going to have a child together, but also that Brett got good news is that the cancer is good. It's fine. We're okay, which is what you want. And by the way, shout out to Teddy Mellencamp. I truly hope she pulls through of this. So scary and horrible. And obviously watching my mom go through this, I don't think I've ever hated something more than cancer, right? I think we can all like we don't agree on a lot as a society, but I think that's one. Like, is there anybody out there that's like, oh, you're a little hard on cancer? It has its benefits. No. Anyways, we cut to Vanita on the phone with JT, and Vanita kind of wants him to go to this function, right? And JT's like, is all those people that hate me going to be there? But you can tell she's like in her flirty feelings. But she got an invite from Madison. Madison and Ryan are having a summer soiree. And she wants to have, like, Ryan, by the way, is the character that is kind of there this season, but not really in a lot of stuff. So you're like, oh, the only reason I remember him because he has my same first name, Bobby. No, it's Ryan. Anyways, but he's like, I want you to come, JT, to this event. And he's like, you can just tell he's super hesitant. And I totally understand that, but at the same time, you're on reality TV, and I'm just confused in the timeline of things. She knows he has a girlfriend at this time, right? What is the scenario? This is where I need a very specific timeline that I don't. I wish the show would actually break it down for us, so we just wouldn't go through articles and Reddit threads and things like that. But Madison said, wanted you to be there, JT, but he is just like, Vanita says JT can be so wishy-washy. Like in the Bahamas, he was like, if I wasn't dating this girl, it'd be you, and that's who I want to be with. And we flash back to her talking to Molly on the beach saying that like, he really likes me. He does. He writes me paragraphs. These long messages are from JT, and he has feelings for me. But Vanita says it puts me in this headspace where like maybe there is a possibility for a shot between him and I. Like maybe we can do the thing. So JT's like, okay, so Madison really did invite me? Did? Okay, well, I think, based on what happened in the Bahamas, Vanita, and we go flashback to Craig and JT's flight, like what you said flamed us, man. And Austin going, you are the piece of shit on my shoe. But he tells Vanita, why would I want to go? put myself through something like that. What happened down there? Like, why submit myself to people that clearly don't give a damn about old JT? And Vanita's like, well, that's valid. Good point. Solid point. But she's like, what about for me? Like, come for me. And he's like, let me have a think on it. Let me have a think, and I'll talk to you soon, okay? So Vanita's shooting her shot repeatedly. And I want the best for Vanita. So we have this scene now with Molly and Taylor where they go get pup cups for their dogs, and then they go out to the water area, and they're talking like, oh, it's really high tide today. And Molly's like, well, Shep was probably crying in the ocean about Sienna. Now, Molly is starting to develop some sort of feelings for Shep. It's like, when you start getting scared, you might have COVID, I think. But it's a weird thing to like talk about with Taylor in particular. Now, they intercut this with Shep coming back. Now, he, after the Bahamas, went to Cuba. He went to Cuba, you guys. So this guy he's pulling out all his megalodon teeth from Cuba. He's unpacking everything once again. But I will say, to Shep's benefit, he puts his luggage on the floor, not the bed. But we see that he collected a lot of shells from his travels. And he says, hey, listen, the thing with Sienna hurt, but I'm trying to let the heart win these days. So I'm ready to explore a serious thing and potentially go all the way with the right person. Does he mean sex? But he says, it has taken me a long time to be in that headspace. And so he calls his dad, and he's like, oh, I feel like a lame duck president or something, Dad. I didn't know what was coming with this girl. I knew something was amiss, and then it got worse. But I was like, the cameras are here, so we got to document it. And the dad's like, some things happen, you just have no control over it. And it wasn't meant to be, So you got to move on, pussy. And Shep's like, looking back, I think it's good. I think it's good to get your heart broken. I think it's like what life's all about. It's like all these bumps and bruises and all these things. And it's your story. It's your tapestry, as Carole King says. And I'm going to look back fondly at this. I know. But at the moment, it's not so nostalgic. Give it time. I like it's like, I'm going to look, it's like my kink. I'm going to look back and potentially touch myself erotically to some of these memories. But just give it time. I just said, and if you were in your 20s and you're a dude, you're like, that's the way to look at life, man. This Shep's got it figured out. None of us have it figured out at all. The dad's just like, look, you got a full summer ahead of you. And Shep's like, yeah, on to the next chapter, And, people are like, books? Who reads books? Now back to Molly. Molly's telling Taylor the whole Shep Sienna thing. Like, I'm not in love with Shep or anything, but everybody's like, ooh, you should go for Shep. And I kind of feel like I'm in like middle school. And people are like, oh, here's your chance. Oh, like, God, what kind of middle school would it like encourage this? I feel like that's public school or something. I'm actually a big fan of public schools. Taylor goes, it just seems a little forced. And she's like, yeah. And I was floating by myself drinking a beer. And I was just like, ah. And Molly lets us know that she started her period that day in the Bahamas, so I would have cried about literally anything. It wasn't Shep, it was the start of her cycle. But she says it's embarrassing because Shep's she's not done anything to make me feel stupid. It's everybody else in the group trying to be weird about everything. Oh, you mean trying to produce a show? Taylor says, yeah, putting pressure on you, and then you start putting pressure on yourself, and, that's when it's like, and Molly's like, I'm not trying to, I'm obviously seen Shep date people, Yeah, it's like everybody in Charleston has. I'm not like putting my eggs in that basket. And Taylor's like, he dates like the old timey way where like he wants to date around. This is just, it doesn't matter what they're saying right now because it's just so fucking weird that this conversation is being had with Taylor. Like it is so bizarre to me. They're not even bringing up that they used to date. And then in a talking head, Taylor goes, well, Shep and Molly are both kind of quirky and weird, and they have like a bunch of the same values. They love shark teeth. Then the fact that Molly probably doesn't cheat on people, but I just want her to maybe get it out there and have some fun. And, maybe Shep is good practice. I feel like this is the most dangerous talking head / advice. It's like, listen, Jeffrey Dahmer, have we seen him actually kill somebody? Yes. There's bodies in his house, but we've not actually seen it. So maybe Dahmer would be good practice if you just want to hang. It's just good practice. But she tells Molly in the scene, meet somebody organically. Let it find you. And Molly's like, oh, fuck all these men in Charleston. Not literally. And Taylor's like, not literally, but they literally fuck all these men. And I mean, this is just a wasted conversation because nobody listens to each other about any of this. I mean, Taylor's dated the man for 3 years, and she's still giving the wrong advice toward Shep. No offense, Shep. Big fan. Big. So the next scene, we have Sally in a car with her mom, and she's going to get a consultation about removing her breast implants. And she's nearing 30, and she's like, what do they say? You know, you got to be 30, flirty, and thriving. And she lets us know she got her boob job initially because her boyfriend at the time really liked it, and she loved her boobs, but it was a time and a place. And we have the doctor talking to her, like, what do you want to achieve? And she's like, the breasts I had before. They were, and he's like, describe that for me, which is a weird question for a doctor, but it's in a professional capacity. And she says, my breasts were perky and small and honestly perfect. I love them, okay? And so they do the exam really quickly. It's like when I went to the urologist last year and he was like, drop them. And I was like, what? No, like there's no, like no amuse boot. Like you're just going to drop them and then feel my testicles. Like it was like, I did not, it was the same ear. I mean, he's just like, okay, disrobe. And he's just like, yeah, we can get you back. We can take him out from the scars where you got him in. So she is getting a boob reduction. That's a storyline. Now we're back at Craig's house. And we're outside in Craig's beloved lawn, and Craig brings Paige a Diet Dr. Pepper. I'm a huge fan of Diet Dr. Pepper. A lot of people have that misconception about me that I'm just Diet Coke, and I think that's just a nasty rumor that I don't want. I do love Diet Coke the most, but Diet Dr. Pepper is really a great alternative if you want to be 30, flirty, and thriving. It's something I enjoy. It's like, oh, who's this? You know, you feel like it's a little danger with Diet Dr. Pepper. Also, we talk about how Paige was introduced to a koozie through Craig. And I was like, you know, Craig has a whole line of koozies at his pillow store. Like, you know it. But anyways, also these scenes, because Austin comes into the scene and they all make fun of Craig together, which is something that I think they like to bond over, Paige and Austin. But you see the Spritz Society cans, and that's part of the overall grander picture of the Spritzer Wars between Loverboy and Spritz Society, which truly, our nation is so divided, and we're even divided with our Spritzers. And there is nothing more manly than fighting about Spritzers. You're just never going to convince me of something more manly than fighting over your favorite Spritzer brand. Truly. Like, and I will say it. I don't drink Spritzers anymore, but fuck it. I'll say I'm Team Loverboy, but I don't, it's Spritzers, right? But Craig keeps saying like, oh, it's nice, isn't it? Being out here with a koozie, and Paige kind of rolls her eyes. I don't think he sees it. But Paige, I will say Craig, I want to love something as much as Craig loves his backyard. Austin comes in. He's like, what's up? What's up? All right. And so this is all Austin wanted, was just to be invited over to hang. And Austin and Paige, they hug. And we're looking at like a bee colony that is made its way onto Craig's lawn. And Paige says, now that looks like quality time if I've ever seen it. And they're like, this is QT right here, Paige. These bees are, the queen's busy mating right now. This is mission oriented, what these bees are doing. And then he's like, and the queen's very missionary oriented, if you know what I mean, not 69ing missionary. And Paige is like, that's right. She kills the man after she has sex with them and then flies off and she rips their dick from their body. And, that's what I love for our culture. Paige always will know the right thing to say. This is why she's good on reality television and probably even better at podcasting, because the way she talks is just very funny. We pull out some Spritz Society cans. We cheers to the backyard. Paige says, I heard you guys cried and made up with each other. And Austin's like, yeah, something like that. And they laugh because, Paige said make out instead of make up. And Austin goes, seriously, the disconnect that we had, like it low-key broke my heart, Paige. And then I heard you were coming in town, and then Madison will be like, oh yeah, like I went over there last night and hung out with Paige and Craig. And Paige's like, you got sad, huh? And I was like, yeah, tell him hey for me. And Paige goes, look, I do love you. I love you as a friend, but my loyalty will always be to Craig no matter what. So if Craig is fighting with someone, I also have to hate them. See, but you can't beat Paige. It's a perfect line of dialogue. Austin goes, I totally understand. In a talking head, Austin goes, "This is the friendship I missed with Craig, where I'd go over to his house to hang out, and he grills a bunch of sausages and hamburgers on the grill." Austin goes, "Craig, I swear to God, I almost showed up in linen pants. Like, I asked Audrey, I was like, going to Craig's house, should I wear linen pants?" And Paige is like, "You're 36. Is your girlfriend trying to like progress, like with your relationship?" And Austin's like, "We honestly haven't gotten that far." And Paige's like, "I think that's good. We did, however, say the L word." And you're like, "You've been dating for 6 months. Yeah, you don't have that like, oh my God, shoot, like, do I have to get married yet?" And Austin's like, "No, no, no, no." And he's like, "All is well, Paige. And honestly, I like that she lives in Charlotte." I like that she lives nowhere near me. I love it. And Paige is like, "You're preaching to the choir, honey." And you can tell Craig's like really anxiety ridden about that line. He's like, "I'm not going to even talk about that until the 2-year like part of dating. Like, I'm not even talking about moving or any of that shit." And then Paige goes, "Want to hear something crazy? Craig and I have been dating for 2.5 years." And so like right when we started dating, it was like, "But are you going to move?" And it's like, I've known this man for 6 months. And Craig's like, "Would it be weird to talk about if you ever wanted kids at 6 months?" Or like, would that be weird? And we talk about Audrey, Austin's girlfriend, wanting 4 kids. But I love that Craig like trying to stick up for himself. Like, would it be weird? And Craig's like, "You want 3 kids, Paige?" And Paige goes, "I want 2. You don't listen to me, Craig. I want 2. And Craig's like, "You said if you don't have one of each, though, you will keep having kids till you have a girl." And Paige is like, "Right, but I want 2. And you can tell it's like it's awkward, right? And Austin says, "When I'm with him, I've noticed that things are not as calm as cool as he makes it seem. Like did she just like snap at him a bit? Or is he like annoyed with her?" And I'm going to be honest, Austin says, they are so on opposite sides of like the spectrum of life. See, the signs are there. And Austin goes, "You know what my favorite thing to do with Paige is make fun of Craig. We are so good at it." And Paige is like, "Yes, we are so good at it. And it's so easy," Paige says. "It is so, and I will say, it is so easy to make fun of them. It's so easy to make fun of myself. It's so easy to make fun of the men at Bravo. It is like easy pickings. Like, it's low hanging fruit, right?" But you tell Craig's starting to get a little butthurt about the whole scenario. He's like, "I'm grilling sausages. I'm doing the work for you guys. And you have the audacity to make fun of me." So now we come back. And Vanita is relaying this story, I think, to Leva, and is saying that JT got his haircut and verbatim said JT told him that there is some black girl who has been coming on to him, and his girlfriend is going to be so pissed off. And Leva's like, "Oh my God." And Vanita's like, "I'm in shell shock." Vanita in a talking head says, "I've never heard JT say anything derogatory ever, but Ryan's also married to a black man, so why would he just lie?" Because this rumor came from Ryan. So Vanita says, "It puts me in a very hard place." And Vanita's like, "Well, Levin's like, it doesn't seem like JT. I know his mother, but what?" And Vanita's like, "Why would he say that? Why would he say that?" I mean, maybe he's just making small talk at a barber shop. Leva says, "I don't believe JT did that. I don't believe JT speaks that way. But it's like there's so much challenge against JT." And I'm like, "Am I wrong with him? Am I wrong about him?" Leva says. So there's a lot of confusion. This JT gets into a lot of trouble. And then we have JT now meeting up with Leva, where I think we're going to confront this barbershop rumor. Wouldn't it be great if it was just like a Fantastic Sam's? He's just going into like chain barbershops. Anyways, Leva, they're sitting down for coffee, and Leva's like to JT, goes, "I'm not a moron. What's going on between you and Vanita? Like, what's going on here? I'm not trying to demonize you." And JT goes, "Well, she called me yesterday and said, 'Do you want to come to the summer soiree with me?' And we flash back to that scene. And Leva's like, 'That's all a good perspective, but I haven't given you all the information.' And JT's like, 'There's more? What?' And there's dramatic pop music. And Leva's like, 'I don't want to perpetuate something if you didn't say it, but I also want you to know what's being said.' And JT's like, 'I'm all ears.' And he's like, 'Ryan, I guess, uses the same barber as you at Fantastic Sam's. I guess you got a haircut recently.' And he's like, 'I did. Do you like it? Look at this, huh?' And Leva's like, 'Yeah, you look good. Sure. Yeah. Okay.' He's like, 'Thank you. Thank you.' Well, Ryan said that the barber told him that you verbatim said there's some black girl trying to get me to break up with my girlfriend. The telephone game is already kind of like off from the initial rumor from Ryan. But she's like, Vanita is distraught about this. And JT's like, no, that sounds like, oh, what? No. That sounds racist. No, I'm not a racist. And Leva goes, she says she feels so used. Like, I thought we were real friends. He goes, we are real friends. And Leva's like, yeah, she's not just some black chick trying to break up your relationship. He goes, this is yet another time where words are being put in my mouth. You flamed us. I have nothing but respect for Vanita. And the fact that Ryan has just trolled me like this is really offensive. Not the Ryan from the amazing podcast, the Ryan from our cast. And the talking head goes, you're going to call me a racist behind my back to someone I actually genuinely care on top of that? That is so ugly and so sinister, and it makes my blood boil. He goes, hey, Leva, I'll give you this. I will never see that Fantastic Sam's barber again. I will never see Ryan again until he walks his shit back, because this is absolutely bullshit. That is not how I roll, Leva. You can ask anybody how I roll. I've had enough of my name getting shattered and destroyed, and I am tired of this friend group, frankly. And Leva's like, who is this barber? Like, do we have to pull the barber into this? But Leva's like, the barber's not just hurting you. The barber's hurting Vanita as well. And Barbara, that might be hurting everybody because the haircut doesn't look that amazing, right? Anyways, JT calls up the barber. And the barber's like, yo. And we cut to a break right there. I'm like, oh my God. He's got the barber on speed dial? I don't know my barber's name at all. Anyways, he's on the phone with the barber and like relays what Leva just told him. You know, it's making me sound racist. Because can I ask, did I ever use the word some or a sequence of words, some black girl? And that's trying to ruin my relationship. And the barber is like, this is my future at Fantastic Sam's. And the barber goes, no. When you were getting your haircut from me, I was asking what was going on with the show. And you had said that there's an interest with a cute black girl on the show, Vanita. That was really the gist of it. I mean, there wasn't really much context else around that. I may have said it because I wasn't articulate, you know? And Leva's like, okay, good. Also, like, why tell the barber anything, man? This is what, like, if you're filming a reality show, why are you talking to barbers in the first place? Anyways, he's like, hey, I'm sorry if this got relayed in a different way, but I didn't mean to. And then JT goes, you and I are good, dude. Hey, trust me, in terms of hair, we are good, and I appreciate you very much for taking the time today to clear the air. I'll talk to you soon, man, but thank you for taking the call. Leva's like, I'm glad you did that, because that was like a lot. And JT, you can just tell, he goes, yeah, it was a lot. In a talking head, he goes, Vanita's not some girl. She's someone that matters to me deeply. So why Ryan's, And he goes, I gotta go, but I'm glad that we cleared the air. I'm just trying to navigate a tricky situation pretty much. At all times in this friend group, it's almost like I'm on some reality show or something. What did I do to this guy Ryan that barely has any screen time on this show? It's not a big one like Craig or Shep or Austin. I want to be in fight with those, not Ryan. Come on, give me a big person to be in and then we go to 10 minutes later on the screen. 10 minutes later. And we're at Vanita's house. Oh my God. And Vanita's still in bed, and JT calls Vanita. He's like, hey, I met with Leva, and I'm still like shaking. I don't know if you talked to Leva, but I'm really upset right now. I know you are too, so it's like, I'm fucking pissed right now. This is horrible. I'm upset with him, and I'm upset that he hurt you. I'm like upset that he hurt you by insinuating like that you're hurt. Last night, I had no idea that Leva hurt her husband. Now I'm hurt. But I had no idea you were hurting, and I'm going, what the fuck is going on? And Vanita goes, okay, JT, give me a second. I need you to breathe. And JT's like, I cleared it. I got the barber on the phone. Leva was there. I want to talk to you. I told Leva I got to call her because I fucking love you. Uh-oh. But he goes, but I'm done. So I'm done with these people, man. They're fucking snakes. It's Craig, it's Austin, it's Ryan, not the guy from the amazing podcast. It's Sally. Vanita goes, just breathe through your nose. Your words are getting jumbled. Just breathe through your nose. And he's like, this is sick, man. This is sick. This motherfucker just called me and his husband's also black. They all these fucking target job of a psychopath. Ryan made me out to be a racist. Not me, the one from the Amazing Podcast. This Ryan from the show. And that's where we end this week's episode. Next time on the season finale of Southern Charm. Bop-a-doo. And we have some big summer soiree event. We see Molly kiss Shep. We see that Shep has a beard, which is big character development. Ryan is getting into that barbershop comment with Leva and Vanita. JT talking to Vanita saying, I thought I lost you. And then Paige telling Craig, oh, is this the last time we're going to see each other? You never know. And then we literally pick back up cameras after the Craig and Paige breakup and saying, she asked me to buy her a ring. And like, I did. And it was just like over. And Shep's like, no, brother. Oh, would it be Craig? Craig was like, I bought her a Megalodon tooth necklace. So that is our episode of Southern Charm. Now let's move on over to a nicer, cooler climate over at the Hamptons at the old summer house. So baba do, baba bye, bye, bye. Let's go over to the summer house. Okay, so summer house, we pick up right where we left off last week, where they're at the beach and, you know, Kyle has been pouting because he got into a fight with Paige the night before over Spritzer Wars and Hannah, Craig, very deep emotions, but he chose to take this out on Paige in a text exchange, which obviously makes Amanda uncomfortable. And so they're at the beach. He's like, hey, Paige, you want to go talk about the dunes or something? And I was like, oh my God, make sure you're in like eye shot of everybody. But that's where we pick up in this episode. And we see that it's Saturday, July 20th, 3:24 p.m. I love when they do specific times. He's like, hey, I hate that we even have to have this conversation. It's like, quite frankly, it's got me like super upset. And it just feels like, I know you're upset, Paige, but I feel like that a lot of things were brought up last night. It was like a personal attack. And then I kind of felt like my business was under attack. And Amanda and Danielle are like totally spying on this conversation. And Kyle's like, at a certain point, I'm no longer Teflon and I fucking crumble. I usually am Teflon. I'm the man of steel usually, but I'm crumbling. And Paige goes, very matter-of-factly, he goes, I'm not Hannah and I'm not Craig. And I was like, I see with my eyes, that is true. This is Paige DeSorbo. She goes, I told Craig to not do this, Kyle. And if you're going to do this, you have to have a conversation with Kyle. So I don't know what he said in these text messages. I was too busy looking at his feet in his fucking sink. He goes, I don't know what he said to you, Kyle. So like when you were texting me last week, I was like, oh, does he not respect me? Or if you like loyalty to me? I just feel like I was being disregarded as your friend, Kyle, because I do feel like I am supportive and like I'm not responsible. And Kyle's like, first and foremost, and Daniel's like, the body language isn't great. And Amanda's like, no, they're both passionate speakers. Kyle goes, with Craig, it was never about the fact that he's a direct competitor. It was like how he went about it, and it hurt. Because make no mistake, Loverboy is the best fucking spritzer on the market. And Paige is like, I get that. It really hurt, Paige. I broke down crying after a text exchange. And Paige is like, you crying? No, which is funny. Kyle says, it just felt like a stabbed. And Paige is like, he put a knife in your stomach. I get that. I know that you're your own person, Paige. I know that you have no control over what like the closest people in your life are going to do or say or whatever. It was wrong of me. I put you smack dab in the middle of it. And then I questioned what you think. And Paige is like, yeah, that's what it really was. Like, I don't want to be in the middle. I feel at this point, Kyle should just be like, give me Hannah's number. Give me your number. Give me her direct number. But Paige says, we've had fights before. I don't think like, oh, okay, last night we weren't going to be friends anymore. I love you guys. We're never not going to be friends. Like, that's just not going to happen. I won't let it happen. Look, Craig's coming next weekend. And Kyle's like, if he genuinely just doesn't understand what upset me and what was said that is not true, I'm happy to get as detail-oriented as we need to. I'm happy to measure dicks. Let's have a penis measuring contest. We are going to have a spritzer dick measuring contest. I've got the taller, more girthier can than Spritz Society. Paige in the Talking Head says, I knew Kyle and I were going to be fine because his real issue is with Craig. It's not with me. Now, him explaining his side to Craig, I don't know if that's going to be wrapped up as quickly as this was wrapped up. Because Kyle has said a lot about Craig, and honestly, it's sad to say, but I don't think they'll ever be the same. And maybe you and Craig will never be the same. Uh-oh. We already know how this ends. It's like the Titanic. We already know the ship goes down. But this is like, Paige is Paige could do this show in her sleep. I mean, she usually does it from the bed, but I mean that as a compliment. Like, this is so. God, am I starting to fall in love with Paige? Like, I, I think she is so deft at how she handles things. Like, if she needs to get into it, she'll get into it, and she will throw down. Like, and she'll throw down. Like me, I'm like, I weigh with words hard for me. With Paige, she's like, she says it direct. So Paige knows she's fine. And she's like, give me a hug. Like, so this is like kind of like Carl and Lindsay from give me a hug, tighter, tighter. But they both say, I love you, I love you. And I'm like, come on, we're making a show here. Don't say I love you. And then she makes fun that he's wearing a ribbed tank like Pauly D. And he's like, I had limited options. I'm at limited options. Paige walks back and tells Amanda, I'm going to kill your husband. And then West and Lindsay, they all see, he's like, oh my God, Paige, you guys are smiling. And I will say I'm frozen on a shot right now of West with his big, meaty nipples. This guy, I feel like they need to send out, I'm going to do a class action lawsuit until West starts wearing a blouse. And because I will say, Rebecca did say at one point in the show, and I am going to have a further conversation with Rebecca later about this, is that she says, oh, his nipples look okay here. Like there's a scene later in it where it looked, and she says, I think when they're not hard, the nipples, that's when it looks weird. But when they're at a tension, I can't, I'm a grown, this is so embarrassing on so many levels. Anyways, all the gang now are along and they're all sitting on the beach. And Lindsay asks a very important question about pregnancies because do you think my belly button is going to pop out and be like, boink? And then Jesse Solomon's like, that's hot. That's hot. And Lexi's clocking this. Like, that's not hot, dude. We're like bumping uglies right now. And you're talking about like, but that's Jesse's MO, dude. He's going to gas up his female friends. And then we start talking Lindsay and Sierra, and Lindsay's like, Sierra, do you think my boobs are bigger than yours? And we have a shot of Rule going, I'm listening. Interesting conversation. And Jesse keeps going, yeah, I don't. Oh, this is great. Yeah. And then they're like, do you think my boobs are bigger than Amanda's boobs? And Lexi, they keep showing Lexi, not react, but just listening to this conversation. And we're talking about the competition of the boobs. And Carl is just sitting there with an awkward smile. And then they're talking that Lindsay's boobs might be heavier. And Sierra's like, I've weighed my boobs on one of those meat weigh, you know, the things you weigh your meat on? I don't even. No, sorry. Lindsay says, I tried to weigh mine in Italy, but it was in kilometers instead of pounds. And I couldn't understand kilometers. And Jesse throws in his dad horny jokes. He's like, those titties move fast. And Lexi kind of has a smile on her face. And we're all just talking. I mean, like this is what I'm talking about. Summer House is just vibes. It's talking about weighing boobs. Lexi in a talking head says, I am a confident person. I know my worth. But hearing your biggest insecurities is difficult. I've had agents in the past, she's a model, being like, you'll never get a specific client because like your body type. And I'm like, just because I don't have double D's, I brought it up to Jesse and I want you to gas up the girls, but don't make it look like you're trying to date them. I don't need a guy to make me feel extra insecure, especially not one that I'm dating. But by the way, isn't that understandable? Am I crazy? In fact, me and Sophie were standing up for Lexi last week, and I got some comment saying like, you don't get it. We don't need people with followings coming on Summer House. And I guess it's like, I really don't understand Lexi's following because I'm an older man. Like, so I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, you could cast newbies. I mean, we have Bailey, but Bailey's like gone, which I'll talk about in a second. But I don't mind Lex. I think Lexi's reaction to Jesse is not crazy. Wes says, I've got a serious question for you. What sports do you think you may want your daughter to get into, Lindsay? Or do you want her to be like, a pageant? I don't know. Like I was trying to be inclusive. Lindsay said, I grew up in the suburbs, so raising a child in the city is going to be different. You know what I mean? And Wes is like, is that the plan? And she's like, yeah, we're going to do the city for now. He's like, yeah, you get less yard activity. And Lindsay goes, we don't even live together. And Danielle, this is where you're like, oh, that relationship between Danielle and Lindsay probably still a little ice cold because she's like, you don't even live with this man? And he's put a baby inside you? And she's like, yeah. If I wasn't pregnant, we wouldn't live together right now. We've only been dating for 6 months. Danielle goes, I've done it before, so. She goes, I don't think the pregnancy and having a baby puts enough pressure on the relationship as it is. I think it already does put that pressure. So let alone like living together. And Daniel's like, when's he going to move in? And Lindsay's like, he's not. And she's like, ever? He's going to spend, he spends every single night with me. And Daniel's like, well, how do you know if he's suitable for you if you don't live with him? And Lindsay's like, we'll move in together when it feels like a normal relationship. Danielle in a talking head clears her throat and goes, a normal couple pace? I think the ship has sailed on the normal couple pace. If it's going well, why wouldn't you want him physically there all the time? Like, why give him the opportunity not to be there? This seems unfair to Lindsay. So Danielle, under the guise of being supportive to Lindsay, but these are tricky waters to navigate, right? Because Lindsay thinks like, listen, I fucking rushed it living with Carl. They had that $15,000 a month place, remember? Which was wild. And she thinks like, listen, yeah, the baby, obviously, that's the big thing that you could point to and go, well, that's pretty quick. But the rest of it, you can't falter for it. Like, she's like, listen, we got the baby. That's the thing, but I'm not going to rush into anything else. I don't know. You kind of get what Lindsay's saying. And if it wasn't for the baby in her stomach, you'd be like, oh my God, she's like right on the straight and narrow. But yeah, the baby, I don't know, guys. You tell me. So Danielle's saying, I don't want you to feel like you're single momming this up. And I was watching Lindsay because I was almost ready. Like, it's like, which way is she going to go? Is she going to go in rage or is she going to just, and Wes is just there in the middle. Wes is like, literally like, this is awkward. This is really awkward for me. In a talking head, she says, I'm doing it the right way for once. I'm not moving too fast. I mean, minus the baby, right? He's the one finding the doula. He's the one who will not miss an appointment, she tells Danielle. And Danielle's like, okay, well, that makes me feel better. And Wes is like, can I be a doula? That's a good career path for me, I think. Imagine Wes Wilson is your doula. Loving what I'm seeing here. Loving this. So we're back on the beach after a break, and Wes and Jesse, the bro squad, they're talking on the beach, talking about Lexi. And remember, they took separate car rides over, and Jesse was letting the other ladies like, hey, I think Lexi's like a little like maybe over demanding in terms of me doing like thirst comments on your photos about you guys having fat asses and great tits. And she's kind of getting weird about that, right? Wes is like, were you getting grilled in the car with the girls? And Jesse's like, no, I actually opened it up to the girls for advice. I opened it up, bro. And we flash back to this car ride saying, they're like, are you worried about this relationship? And Jesse's like, listen, there's an extreme attraction, right? I just don't want to all like this blow up. And Sierra's like in the house because that happened for Sierra and West. So he's like, it's weird, Wes. Lexi's telling me she's a jealous person makes me a little nervous, Jesse says, but I haven't liked anyone in a while. By the way, up until 2 weeks ago, the guy was going on 5 dates a week. Like, imagine. So, like, let's do the math here. How many weeks are in a year? Is it like 56? 56 times 5. I mean, that's got to be at least 1,000. Just how many girls in New York he has not liked. I also think he spends part of his time in Miami, so that opens up the pool a little bit. But this guy has not felt this way about anybody, even though he's constantly tried. He's like, there have been girls in the past where I was like, why didn't I just give him a chance? And those are kind of the only regrets that I have. And I've gotten over them because I'm a guy. But I think if I didn't give this a real chance, I would regret it. Wes goes, she owes you some love after leaving me at the club solo. Last night, I thought it was interesting, Jesse says, that you left everyone behind. Like, that was just, last summer, you never would have done that, Wes. Because remember, Wes snuck off and said he slept on his friend's couch. And by friend's couch, he meant ladies' genitalia. That's where he slept, I believe. He just hasn't come out and told us yet. And Wes is like, it's like, like for the sake of keeping peace. I'm like, I don't want to say anything, Hey, I fucking like hooked up. Like, I'm here, And Jesse's like, I'm not judging that, bro. Like intentionally leaving people behind and then starting to not tell people about if you're hooking up with people. And Wes goes, you think I'm losing myself? And he gets excited. He's like, you care about me in that way? You think I'm losing the core West? And Jesse's like, I don't think you are, but I just don't want you to. I'm calling a foul on I just want you to be aware, bro. And Wes is like, yeah, no, Sierra just ripped my fucking head off. And this is where he has the talking head look with the silk scarf, the black glasses, the backward white baseball cap, V-neck white sweater, white, crisp white t-shirt under that. It's a whole look happening here. But you could tell it really rocked him that Sierra actually called him out for his own behavior. And it wasn't the New York Times this time. He was like, I just want to not do anything that could be like a dick move. I'm going off of her. If she kind of like is like jokey laughy with me, then I will. And Jesse's like, she's laughing at your jokes this weekend. And Wes goes, hard not to. You had one good joke, dude. You had one good joke last week's episode where I even forgot the joke, but it was a joke and she laughed. Like, my God, it's like you're fucking Bill Burr all of a sudden. Like, oh my God. It's like Shane Gillis up in the, it's hard not to, dude. I'm a cut up. Do you see what I wear? Like you're doing prop comedy with half of your outfits. Are you kidding me? He's like, I'm ripping up there, dude. I'm ripping. And so now we play geriatric, I don't know, frisbee ball. I don't know what the it's with the frisbee, you guys. They're trying to get it into a hole. Every game these guys play, it's all about getting something in a hole. And then the girls are playing volleyball. I don't think Lindsay should be doing this. It's hitting her boobs and her belly. I don't know. And then we get back to the summer house. The door is still sticking at the summer house. That's what I love. This show is so real that they will not fix anything that is wrong with the actual house. Like they can bear, this door always sticks. Like you shouldn't have the audience literally going, oh, when are they going to fix that door? This isn't good. And by the way, there are no Amazon boxes outside the patio this time, but there's a lot of cardboard. Like they've broken down the cardboard and just left it in the front. The commitment to not doing anything with the boxes or the cardboard is truly the details that I talk. It's a vibe, right? So now we're back and we're going to plan the night. Remember, this is like Saturday night. We already did Friday last week. And Wes is like, you guys are going to stay here, but I'm going to go to dinner with Carl Beast. So Wes now has taken it to calling guys their name but Beast. And I do look forward to one day him going, Ryan Beast. That would be dope. Like that would make me feel like my gender, maybe like Ryan Beast. That's the kind of shit I fall for all the time. I'm like, I make fun of it on the show, but I'm honest enough with myself to be like, could you call me Ryan Beast? That'd be dope as hell, dude. Upstairs, Jesse is dancing by himself, topless, in the bed. And Kyle's like, it's good if you get Amanda and Paige out, because Amanda and Paige is going to go with Carl Beast and West. And Kyle is going to have the rest of the gang. Now, remember, this is set up by the producers. They set up these division of groups, and sometimes they'll tell certain people not to come. Like, that's why we're not having Gabby this weekend. That's not just them like, I can't make it this weekend. I used to think that was the case, and then I found out it wasn't. So they do, I like the manipulation a little bit in this of like, you're going to go on a dinner with this group. You're going to stay here. But I would be like, I would want to make my group the best, right? Kyle now, and this is also growth from a male, is Kyle is eating cheese sticks in the late afternoon, early evening by himself. And I'm proud of him because he used to do it solo by himself after he got home from the bar. And he'd be like, I need gummy bears. And he would do like monologues in the kitchen. And I do miss those days, but I also realize we're getting older. So if I get a solo shot of Kyle eating cheese sticks in the kitchen alone by himself in the afternoon, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with this. So Sierra's up in bed getting some nap time as Paige changes for this dinner. We have 4 boxes. Blink, 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 blink. Imrul has a nice outfit on. He's like, he leaves all the buttons open down to his belly button because he can pull that off. Now Danielle's going to some house party in the Hamptons. She's like, I know everybody's staying here and some people are going to dinner and then maybe potentially we'll all come together as a house and party as a summer house. Just text me and I'll meet up. So everybody's getting ready, but this is it. It's just kind of like 4 boxes and we're seeing people getting ready. Amanda doesn't know what to wear. These aren't storylines. It's just vibes. This show is just vibing. And then Carl comes down with green shoes. Like he has like khaki pants, a white button up, and then green shoes. And they walk out of the house and Lindsay goes, Carl looks like Shrek. And listen, I don't know. Team Lindsay forever. And we also know, I talked about this on Friday's show, Carl announced his book, Cake Boy or Cake Eater. And I found out from our guest Josh on Friday that cake eater is like a Pittsburgh slang where he's from, which I just I'm gonna listen to this book. I will listen to the audiobook. Yeah, of course, I listen to all their books. I will listen to this, and I hope I don't know, but yeah, he wore green shoes. What are we gonna do? He's trying, okay? Fashion. Jesse says goodbye to Lexi and says, "Text me, have fun." Text me sweet nothings. I want you to text me how much you like me nonstop. Now, I don't want people saying Lexi is being aggressive. They like each other. That's a normal thing to say, right? So they get in the car, the people that are going out, and then you had like Sierra, Lexi, Kyle, and they've stayed back. And you also have Lindsay here. And he's relaying the conversation he had with Paige about Hannah and Craig. And Imrul's asking Kyle, saying, you and Craig have a good friendship as well, right, Kyle? And Kyle's like, well, at least so I thought. I care more about my friendship with Paige than Craig. So when Craig comes up next weekend, I will, And Sierra's like, what's the vibe with y'all? And Kyle's like, I had one idea of our friendship, and, it is what it is. He's entered into Spritzer Wars. He says, I value and treasure my friendship with Paige, and I probably even value Amanda's friendship with Paige. And I don't want to mess any of that up. But with Craig coming next week, there's a lot that was said that is just not true. And he's made no attempt to clear anything up. Am I the first person to catch Craig blatantly lying? No. Make no okay, he goes, make no mistake. Craig got kicked out of our wedding. And this has always been a rumor that has been thrown out there that never got confirmed, but now we are finally getting it confirmed on the show. Now, Samantha Bush, her as Bravo historian, she's the one, I forgot what outlet she was writing for at the time. Was it The Dip? Is that right? Samantha, let me know. It was The Dip. And said, I have it on good authority that Craig got kicked out of Kyle and Amanda's wedding. And this was denied up and down. But this is how low the Spritzer War battle has gotten, is that Kyle is literally saying he did get kicked out of our wedding. We knew it. You stop lying to us. And then this is great. Sam was on Bravo We're Black with our great friends Kaya, who go follow Bravo We're Black. I love it. She had Samantha on and had more tea in terms of Summer House, saying that Bailey was the new cast member Bailey, who we don't see in any of the press photos, doesn't come back to the Summer House because she actually had a secret boyfriend that she was putting on her close friends stories on Instagram. And then Amanda found out somehow and the gang confronted her about it, which I'm like, that totally is believable and all that. But like, that would have been great. Like, make that a storyline. Don't have us literally putting Bailey on milk cartons. Like, have you seen this girl? Like, is she okay? Is she alive? When it's like, I would have rather have seen that conversation. Like, let's deal with the reality of the reality in this. Like, we could have dealt with this years ago. Like, you did get kicked out of our house. Like, I don't like the secrets kept from the audience because they always come out years later and then it makes you look bad in particular, right? So we find out this is true. And Kyle's like, he continues to lie about that, dude. Spritzer Wars is so dark. And Kyle's like, if somebody lies and I call them a liar, is that out of line? I don't know. You know what it, dude. Next week's episode, they better not tease this shit and then it turns out to be like, I love you immediately. Like, I don't want blood. I'm, a peaceful I try to be a peaceful person. But you know what I'm saying? We come back, we open up Saturday, July 20th, 8:54 p.m. We are at Southampton, some restaurant in Southampton. We got Amanda, Craig Beast, Paige, West, and Jesse. And we're going to share some plates, you guys. We've got some shots of them just looking at the menu. Tuna tacos is being bandied about. And this is what I'm talking about, vibes. We're just talking about menu stuff. And West desperately wants something to drink other than water. And they're going to do a Filthy Beast, which is a spicy, dirty martini. And you had me at spicy and martini. Dirty, I don't like overly dirty martinis. So like spicy martini would be great. But we're going to have 3 spicy, dirty martinis, 3 dirty beasts. And Amanda just gets an extra dirty martini. That's just so much sodium. And then Carl, great plug for the brand, he goes, do you have a Loverboy non-alc? And the lady was like, of course. Yeah, of course you do. And so we get into some conversation and they actually do a flashback of, remember when Paige, when they were at a different house in the summer, Paige went into the pantry closet and made out with Kyle. And remember? No, sorry, made out with Carl. Sorry, made out with Carl. You guys, if you haven't caught up on Summer House history, yes, Carl and Paige made out in the pantry and had a little flirty for like a hot minute. And Paige is asking Carl, "What about you? Are you dating yet?" And Carl goes, "No. I wanted to come into this summer and just date, be single, learn." And he goes, "Can I be honest? Today at the beach, um, I look over at Lindsay, and she's the last person I've had sex with." And then Wes is like, record drop, like, needle drop, like, wait. That was the last time you had sex ever? Carl's like, yeah. I haven't had sex for a year. And Paige even gives like a zoinks. Everybody's like, dude, I've not had sex for like a decade in my earlier years. Like 0 to 10. And then 10 to 17, I think, was also sexless free. I've done it before, and I never got this type of reaction. But Carl's like, yeah, last person I had sex with, Lindsay. I like that was a moment for Carl at the beach, a solo moment of like, I haven't had sex since that girl right there, who's now pregnant. Interesting. And Paige is like, why are you doing that to yourself, Carl? And Jesse goes, you could walk outside and have sex with whoever you wanted. Let's not encourage Carl just walking outside and just throwing himself at strangers outside of Southampton. But Carl says, I emotionally, like, I can't, I'm like trying to heal. But Jesse in a talking head goes, that's a long time, brother. I live by my penis. Wes in a talking head goes, damn, he must have like a Browser subscription or something. It's like porn you have to like pay for because it's like elevated. I think HD with like good filter options, not that I know. Paige says, I love the juxtaposition so much. Carl became a priest in a talking head, she says, and Lindsay is pregnant with her third child. Carl in a talking head says, I haven't been dating at all, really. The last 7-8 months, my focus has been on like trying to take care of myself, heal, but also get rid of this anger and resentment that I have towards Lindsay. But as I'm seeing her this summer, it's like, she's moved on. How can I not move on? Like, why can't I do that? Well, physically, I looked this up earlier. As of this moment, men cannot get pregnant fully. It's hopefully right around the corner in terms of technology. I'm sure AI is on this. But yeah, but I love that. Like, what sign could Lindsay give Carl that she's moved on? Like, yeah, the pregnancy is the thing, right? But also the anger and resentment. I think Carl probably gets a lot of flack for that. He's being honest, but he's also, I hope, I wish these shows were longer and follow-up questions that I'm sure they have, but we don't get to see, is that anger and resentment, like, it's got to be anger and resentment also on how you handled the situation, Carl himself. And he's misplacing some of that anger on Lindsay, but also I think it's very honest for him to say, I am angry at Lindsay. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I am angry how everything went down. But he is an active participant, if not the person who pulled the ripcord. We will be fighting about this forever, I'm sure. But West is letting them know I'm hosting a new show called, for Complex, The West Day Ever, like Best Day Ever. It's like over the course of a date, but I'm interviewing women. It's like B, C, and like D-list celebs. And he goes, I'm interviewing Hawk Tua on July 20th. And we see some of the West Day Ever with Haley, the Hawk Tua girl, which we haven't heard tons of since she might be going to jail for a Bitcoin pump and dump scam. Yeah, like we all miss Hawk Tua, which, by the way, this is how weird a society, no offense to Haley and Hawk Tua, they're the same person, but no offense to Haley, she seems like a really nice person, and Hawk Tua, but it was like, that was one of the #1 downloaded podcasts, YouTube things, and it just takes so little. Like, that's what I mean. Like, I now just wander the streets trying to act like, doing blowjob motions and spitting just so I can try to get some sort of attention for this podcast. But, it's weird what people get turned on to and what becomes a thing. So West has this date. I don't know if it's still going. Can you guys let me know if it's still going? But Wes lets us know he doesn't have a lot going on right now. He's not dating. Like, he's just working, dude, which means he's on his Browser subscription. And also he's not dating, but he's still actively putting his penis into other women. Like, that's what that means. Can we all be adults enough to admit that he is fully doing the bone zone with a lot of different people? I would imagine, right? Now, back at the house, they're eating charcoal asparagus and like burnt burgers from Kyle. So I think obviously the Southampton dinner with Amanda and Carl, and that wins in terms of excursion. So now we're talking about Jesse, potentially Lexi being a jealous girlfriend. And Amanda's like, well, she said something about commenting on people's girls' Instagram photos. And Wes is like, what? Like almost as shocked, if not more shocked, than Carl hasn't had sex in a year. Of like, she asked you to what? Stop saying your female friends have big old fat asses and tits? Are you crazy? That's what you're all about, man. That's what makes you you. Do not let her strip away your poetry like that, dude. And Jesse's like, yeah, like it was like, and Carl's like, well, she really likes you, obviously. And Wes is like, I think it's interesting she's asking you to stop commenting sleaze on girls' photos. Jesse goes, I thought I would be leaving this weekend exclusive with her, and now I don't. And Amanda's like, do you want to be exclusive with her, or do you feel pressured to be exclusive with her? Were you silent or silenced, Jesse? Jesse's taking this in, and he's big shit-eating grin. And Amanda points out something that we seem to forget because we're 5 episodes in. This is the only second week that they've known each other. And Jesse lets us know that she said to Jesse that he has 1 month to decide if they want to be exclusive or not. And Wes chokes and needs some water. He's like, what? What? Dirty martini. I can't believe this fucking guy. And they're all laughing. But I think 1 month is generous. If you're already this hot and heavy for the cameras, doesn't she need to have insurance for herself that he's not just going to like pump and dump her like Wes did with Sierra? Like, isn't this somewhat smart? Or am I thinking about this completely in a bizarre way? Okay, so now everybody is going out to meet. The summer house is all going to get together except for Lindsay, who's already in bed. She's texting Turner, her boyfriend, night, baby. Cub is good, heading to bed. And he's like, good night, hubs and cubs. So like, God, hubs and I can't. I want all the happiness for Lindsay, but hubs and cubs. Anyways, we see some fun people shaking their tootsies and boobies at the club. And then Wes did a funny thing. They had bottle service girls, and they're holding up a big lit sign, and it says, congrats, Jesse and Lexi. And congrats, Jesse and Lexi. And Wes is like, I had to fucking do it, obviously. So he's making their relationship a bigger thing than maybe Jesse wants to make it. So did this sign. Very funny. Okay, so it's 2:10 a.m. We got Amanda coming in, Paige, Sierra. They all look like they've had a really fun night. Paige looks drunk. I love this. Wes comes in. We're seeing 4 boxes. Kyle comes in. We've had a good night together as a summer house family. Lindsay's still asleep in her room. And Amanda and Sierra, they're saying that they look like grandmas. Paige is upstairs just kicking her like dress off. And we have Danielle coming in. Everybody's doing like the apples dance from Charlie XCX. That's kind of shows where we were in the summer. Doesn't like the Charlie XCX Brat album seem so far away from, like, we used to be so young and innocent over last summer. Kyle has put on Emerald's motorcycle helmet. Lexi is dancing in the kitchen. They're just eating snacks. Jesse's playing grab ass with Lexi. Carl's just sitting there being a virgin. But we don't know where Imrul is fully, right? Where is Imrul? Where could Imrul possibly be? They're making TikToks. Wes is up in his room taking off one of his shirts. People are starting to go to bed, though, right? And then at 2:28 a.m., Imrul comes in with a new friend. Now, remember, he had a new friend the night before. This is his second new friend. And the girls are doing TikTok dances, and they're like, oh, my God, Imrul has a new friend. They're like, hey, you're having pizza bites? Cool. All right. All right. And then Imrul's like, let's go to the bedroom. Let's do this. And he comes in with the new girl. We do not see the new girl's face at all. This is the second new girl. We have not seen her face. 2:44 a.m., Imrul puts a shirt on the camera. Listen, I don't know if this is just like a sign of the times. I get the respect. We got to sign off on this stuff. But we used to be able to see a little bit of the night action vision, you know? And the other way I would argue this is these are very expensive cameras. And when Imrul throws his Shein shirt up there, it affects the cameras. So we can't be just doing the cameras like this. Anyways, Jesse realizes that he's going to sleep with Lexi, not Wes. And Wes is like, good night, Beast. Good night, Beast. Kyle's learning how to do a TikTok dance. then Jesse and Lexi are having like kind of, they're talking about their relationship in the bed. And Jesse's like, no, I really like you. I want to make sure that we're totally aligned, Lex. I want to make sure. We'll hopefully build that trust. And you know that my intentions are pure. And I wouldn't like be dating you, Lex. There's a long pause. If they weren't, I just want you to trust me. I'm not gonna like go out there and like be embarrassing you, but like it's just like part of my personality. I'm like a social person, right? And she goes, again, I can be a jealous person to an extent. So she's letting him know, being a model, she says, because basically my entire existence, since I was 10 years old, I've been completely picked apart. She's not yelling. I'm just being intense. She goes, like, how I look is never good enough. And like everyone keeps saying, like, Jesse's a boob guy. Jesse's a boob guy. And he's like, what? She's like, yeah. Who said I'm a boob guy? And she goes, everyone. And we flash back to all of the times that Jesse's made comments about the ladies' boobs just in the last day. Just in the last day. And Jesse goes, I'm not a boob guy. I'm a butt guy. So get to know me. I love your boobs. I just want to eat them at all times. I don't see, this is where I kind of got, I was like, eat them? Let's use... I'm down to myself. I don't know nobody else. That's Jesse's new hit song, which I actually do kind of like. But Jesse wants to make her feel, and said, hey, I know we have video evidence to show that I've said boobs a lot, but I am a boob guy. But at the same time, I would also like to eat your boobs. So I feel like that was a very sweet way to end the scene, but also scary in a sense, right? We come back from the commercial. It's a new day at the summer house. And Jesse comes into the bedroom he shares with Wes, and he rips a gigantic fart. He's like, I've been holding on to that fart for 12 hours. And Wes is like, fart beast. Yeah, fart beast. Now, Amanda ordered a bunch of junk food because everybody's hungover. So we got like bagels, burritos, pancakes, sausages, steak quesadillas. And it's quesadilla, but I like to say quesadillas. They even got sour cream, bitch. So outside, a lot of people are just hanging by the pool, summer housing. And they're like, have we seen Imrul yet? Because Imrul sent the girl packing, but now he's doing push-ups in his bedroom. This guy is El Solo Lobo. He had a night with a girl, second night in a row, but he's also working on his fitness. He's doing push-ups. And Carl lets the people know at the pool, he's like, that world is so foreign to me now. I can't just meet someone at a club and be like, oh, you're hot, let's start making out. Like, how do you go from like, hey, you're hot to like all of a sudden you're just making out? And they're like, I don't know. But Carl knew, which is that Carl was hammered when he used to do this. We saw this on Summer House. But also, this is a very real thing that he, you know, it's funny, but not funny. You know, it's like, yeah, he's learning. Like, alcohol and drugs will give you this ability to believe in yourself in a way that just being yourself, sometimes for certain people, it is so hard. Like Wes and Jesse, I feel, are pretty confident with themselves regardless. But somebody like Carl is learning himself all over again, right? Now, Wes claps for Imrul when he comes out. He's like, Orgy Beast. All right. I got a new name for you. Orgy Beast. All right. So Jesse's like, tell us about the lady. Tell us about your adventures. And he's like, well, I didn't see her leave. Is she still here? She's not still here, is she? And they all laugh. And they're like, that's insane. And he's like, oh, no, she seemed like a good girl. And then he talks about how he used to be undocumented and he was married before. He goes, my first girlfriend, you know, who I was living with, and we were together, we got married. And I got my papers through that, essentially. So, by the way, the rest of the Summer House gang around the pool, their jaws are like, whoa. You know, Wes is like, 90 Day Fiancé beast. You're like, but they're really listening to this story. Like, no way. Whoa. And Jesse's like, you're married? And he goes, yeah, no, we were expediting the process. And Jesse's like, oh, no wonder you said you had entanglements. Oh, man. But he goes, we were together for a while. We loved each other. And we thought eventually, you know, we're going to get married anyways. So that just expedited the whole thing. And Lindsay's like, were you monogamous in that relationship? And Emerald's like, yeah, I wasn't doing any of this. What a journey. And he goes, and I think being in such a committed relationship led me to who I am, Orgy Beast, because I was forcing myself towards the end of that to be a certain way. And she felt that. I didn't feel tied into my marriage or my relationship because of my immigration status. It was never that. We loved each other. We were together for that, and I still believe in love. I still believe in finding someone who does make you happy, or at least the idea of it. But in the interim, I know that I'm not going to settle for anything less. And that's what my past has taught me the most. Be okay with who you are. And don't let other people's expectations dictate how you live your life. But this is so interesting, though, too, because you're like, okay, this dude really seems to know who he is, but it is extreme. And it's not my personal experience of just running and gunning women like night after night. So I'm wondering where that came into it, that part of the story, because it seems like he's being very open and honest. And also I would wonder, the girl that would turn his head, would that girl be cool with the way he's chosen to live his life? But I guess she would have to be, right? Like that would be part of the gig if you got into the relationship with Emerald, right? But he says, I don't think I could be monogamous with, or at least sexually. And Paige is like, yeah, we're all listening so intently. And Jesse's like, yeah, let's listen to this, what this guy has to say. And Lexi shoots him a look like, pervert. What the fuck, Jesse? And Wes is like, Orgy Beast is a very interesting guy. And we're all laughing at Orgy Beast. And they're like, well, we appreciate you sharing. It's 11:24, and we're going to go home. So we're all packing up after this really intense Emerald story. And Jesse is now kind of flirting with Sierra in a way. Like, kind of like, hey, like, I'm a baby crush. Like, he keeps, like, hugging her and touching her. And I'm uncomfortable. And especially if you know a girl there that, is into you, you're into her. You just said you're not a boob guy. You're a butt guy. And why I don't know. It was weird. And this is where I think Jesse gets it wrong. And where Jesse's going to get himself in trouble sooner rather than later with this relationship in particular. And it's going to make Lexi look like the bad guy in some weird world. And Emerald's the only one actually being honest. So now we have our final scene of the episode. And it's Craig and Paige. And Craig has convinced Paige to go to an Australian restaurant. A dingo ate my baby. That's not a good Australian accent, but hello to my Australian listeners. And he convinced her to go to this thing. And she's like, I don't know about this, Craig. She's like, what is Australian food, though? And he's like, I have a feeling it's probably American. And he's like, oh, this is legit kangaroo on here. And Craig's like, we're getting that. Does that freak you out? We have to try it, Paige. You know I've had lion before. Oh, that really turns a girl on. You know I've eaten lion before. And Paige is like, I'm trying to think of what the grossest thing I've had. And Paige's like, Craig's like, have you tried squirrel? And she's like, no, you can't eat squirrel. And he goes, yeah, you can. I know people that eat squirrels. That means him. That means Craig has eaten squirrel, you guys. And she's like, that makes me physically ill. And Craig's like, hey, you do what you can to feed your family. Sometimes, Whitney's hungry, So the drinks get brought out. He's just doing sparkling water, don't worry. And Craig orders the kangaroo. She gets the safer option, the chicken sandwich. There's kangaroo skewers, you guys. And so now we get into this conversation about marriage and kids. And Craig's like, well, I'm going to have an opinion about this. I'm going to be your husband. And Paige is like, I know, but I live to make my parents' life easier. Like now, sometimes I feel guilty about certain decisions because I'm like, oh, but I feel bad for my parents. Like I should do this for my parents. Like perfect example is when like Lindsay announced her pregnancy. My initial thought was like, woo, thank God it's not me. And Craig, you can tell, just rattled by this. And Paige is like, but should I be like getting ready to have a baby? Because like my parents really want a grandchild. So like that guilt is in the back of my head, Paige tells Craig. And Craig's like, you shouldn't be having a baby because your parents want grandkids. You should have it because I, Craig Conover, want one. And Paige is like, no, I'm not having a baby. So don't worry. And then Craig's bummed out about that answer. And she's like, I can't even find 2 weeks to like freeze my eggs. I'm not kidding. And Craig's like, it's a bummer sometimes because I think we're so busy that sometimes it feels like we have a single life. We live a single life. Like, I don't want us doing events apart forever. I want to be in Giggly Squad. Paige is like, it sounds like you're ready for the next. He's like, it's not. It's like, I want to make sure that as we continue to get busier, I just opened another store. You're about to go on tour, that we like continue to make each other and our relationship a priority and we don't let it slip. and just make sure that doesn't change, The food's getting delivered. And Craig's like, we never let our like relationship fall to the wayside. And she's like, I don't feel like it has. Do you feel like it has? No, I don't. No, but I'm saying. And then they both take a moment to eat the kangaroo skewer and they like it. They're like, but even Paige is like, it's good. And they're laughing. Like Paige is still laughing. But Craig's like, we're happy now. Let's continue that we put this effort in, that we make each other a priority, no matter how busy we are. And I'm just going to have you sign this contract saying that. No, Paige is like, well, that's why I feel like you're bringing it up. Is there like a tinge of you not being happy? And Craig's like, we are 5 times busier now than we were when we started dating. You legitimately are becoming more successful and busier, which is awesome. And she goes, is it? Ooh. And Craig's like, why do you think I don't want that? All I was sharing with you is that sometimes it's a bummer that we can't do stuff. And Paige's like, I know, but my career took a different turn and I can't travel as much as I used to. You said it yourself. From the time we started dating, I'm 5 times busier. So that's why you've had to come to me more often and eat kangaroo in New York. But I don't want you to ever feel neglected. I don't want you to ever feel like you're not a priority. This is such an interesting flip in usually gender dynamics in terms of relationships. And I kind of love it. But you do feel for Craig because it's just they want 2 different things right now. But Paige goes, I just need you to be a little okay that there's going to be certain weeks, especially this year, that I'm not going to be able to come down and just chill in the backyard. And Craig's like, no, I love my backyard. He goes, I was just being honest. Like, if we were this busy for the rest of our lives, I wouldn't see it working out. And Paige is taking this in. And she's like, are you breaking up with me in an Australian restaurant? And he goes, I know you're going to choose work 10 times out of 10. But right now in our lives, but if we were married and we had kids, like you can't choose work all the time. I mean, who knows if the kids are sufficient? I mean, when can a kid breastfeed themselves? Is that right out of the gate? But Paige says it makes me feel like if I get more and more successful, like it's a bad thing. Like if I don't make you the number one priority, I'm going to feel guilty. And he's like, do you believe me when I tell you I really don't want you to slow down? And Paige is like, you really want me to be honest? I think that if I said, let's have a baby tomorrow, you'd be like, fuck yeah. And Craig is thinking about this, but also you can tell the kangaroo's settling in his stomach. And she's like, yeah, let's settle down. Let's just have a kid. Let's live in Charleston. Let's like live a slow life. Like, I don't ever want to live a slow life, Craig. And Craig's like, yeah, that's what I want one day. I just never thought I would be in such a submissive, like, relationship. And Paige is like, should I apologize for being strong and independent? And he goes, I didn't realize I would be giving up so much decision making. Life's a bitch, Craig. This is so, I mean, come on. I wish he could have left that last 2 sentences out of it and just be like, yeah, I want to live a slow life one day. That's it. He doesn't need to say the submissive. I think that's weird, but yeah, I guess that's a real feeling. Anyways, next week, Carl goes on some sort of weird date where a girl comes to the summer house and we finally have Craig coming to the summer house and Kyle's like, Craig, can we talk? And he's like, tomorrow. He's like, you've said that 4 times. We need to get into a spritzer war. And also Jesse, remember, Lexi is not going to be here this weekend. And Lexi is starting to flirt and like go on top of Sierra on a pool float. And this is where it's like, Jesse, you make it rough on yourself. This is why Lexi has a weird time with trust and is going to have a weird time with you. You are actively doing this. And I know we all like Jesse, but come on, man. That's not cool. Anyways, you guys, this has been a lot of fun. Summer House, Southern Charm, all in one, supersized. We have the Pop Culture Roundup today, so go listen to that with Sophie Ross. But I needed to do this. I didn't feel great yesterday, so I got this done today. Bye. Oh, also, go join our Patreon. Just did an hour and 30-minute episode over there, too. Bye.